made it the centerpiece of his creation. He cared so much for us that he allows us to choose. And this is where our story turns. Then something awful happens. All great stories have a villain. God's epic has a villain, and so does your story. This is what the sovereign Lord says. You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you: ruby, topaz, and emerald, chrysolite, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. And on the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, and I expelled you, O guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. Ezekiel 28:12 through 17. Even before our father Adam and our mother Eve ever made the choice to know both good and evil and therefore know death, there was an unaired episode of the Genesis account about our enemy, Satan. Here we discover that there is a more dangerous part of our story than we ever knew. That we live in a world with a part that we can see and a part that we cannot see. Story has allowed us to create some amazingly different types of villains. And here are just a few types that I'm sure you'll be able to identify in your favorite stories. There's the anti-hero, the anti-villain, the arch-enemy, like Captain Hook, the evil overlord, like Darth Vader or Sauron, the evil diva, like Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, the evil genius, the evil twin, the femme fatale, like Jezebel maybe, the mad scientist, like Victor Frankenstein, and the supervillain, like Professor Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes, and, of course, the wicked stepmother. There is no shortage of villainy in our world. Each one of these is similar to the original villain. And what does any good villain do? Why, they try to destroy good with evil. The same thing took place in the garden. Trust me on this one thing, God says to us. I have given the entire earth to you. For your joy, explore it, awaken it, take care of it for me. And I have given you one to another for love and romance and friendship. And you shall be my intimate allies. But on this one matter, you must trust me. Trust that my heart for you is good, and that I'm withholding this for a reason. Do not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or you will die. Let's read that story. Let's go to Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. Genesis 3, verses 1 through 6. That's page 2 in the Pew Bible. Genesis 3. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden'?" And the woman said to the serpent, "We may eat the fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, 'You must not eat from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die." "You will not surely die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Our enemy hates God. And since he was unable to destroy God, he set his sights on us, the creatures that bear a striking resemblance to the God that Satan hates. And what better way to corrupt the creation than by sowing the lie that we could be God? We could have control over anything we choose. And this is what we still seek today. We think we cannot trust God, that we need to write our own stories and keep God out of them. We believe that we can arrange for our own happiness. It became so bad that God says in Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 and 6, "The Lord saw how great man's wickedness on earth had become, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil all the time. The Lord was grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain." We reached out, not for a beautiful, intimate relationship with God. We reached out for ourselves. And we fell so fast, so early in the story. But that's usually how stories go. Some event, some circumstance, something pushes the characters out into a journey. Marty is accidentally sent back in time. A plane crashes on a strange island. Some children wander into a wardrobe. Incidents like these lead us out on the journey. And in this case, the ship has struck an iceberg. Coruscant has fallen to the empire. Rome has burned. Winter has come to Narnia. And a battle or a journey is taken. Out of the garden we went, and all the rest of this became our journey. It's an amazing adventure. It's filled with heroes and enemies and beautiful poetry and great wisdom. You should read it sometime. I'd like to read to you a parable about our journey from Max Lucado's book, In the Grip of Grace. The parable is titled, The Parable of the River. Once there were 5 sons who lived in a mountain castle with their father. The eldest was an obedient son, but the 4 younger brothers were rebellious. Their father had warned them of the river, but they had not listened. He had begged them to stay clear of the bank lest they be swept downstream, but the river's lure was too strong. Each day the 4 rebellious brothers ventured closer and closer, until one son dared to reach in and feel the waters. "Hold my hand," he said, "so I won't fall in." And his brothers did. But when he touched the water, the current yanked him and the other 3 into the rapids and rolled them down the river. Over rocks they bounced, through channels they roared, on the swells they rode. Their cries for help were lost in the rage of the river. And though they fought to gain their balance, they were powerless against the strength of the current. And after hours of struggle, they surrendered to the pull of the river. The waters finally dumped them,